My name is Emma. I am 29-year-old. The Sterling Club isn't my kind of place. The chandeliers hang heavy, and the waiters' coats probably cost more than my car. But it was my parents' 30th anniversary, so I came. I sat there in my simple black dress, the only one at the table not covered in diamonds. My sister Vanessa was holding court, of course. She laughed, a high, tinkling sound that always set my teeth on edge, about her new condo, her upcoming trip, and her perfect life. "Oh, Emma?" she said, tapping her acrylic nail against her wine glass and looking at my water. "How are those little projects of yours coming along? Still playing on your computer?" My mother smiled tightly, a little apology for me. My father just looked at my dress, then at Vanessa's, and his disappointment was clear. They saw the other daughter, the quiet failure, the one who didn't measure up. I just smiled and took a sip of water. I let them laugh. I let them judge. They thought this was just another dinner where they could remind me of my place. They had no idea I was about to end the entire game. They thought I was breaking. I was just waiting. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Growing up, my house was always loud. It was loud with Vanessa's laughter, Vanessa's music, Vanessa's friends, and Vanessa's dramas. My sister was born for the spotlight. I was born for the shadows. It was the little things at first. The things you try to tell yourself don't matter. When Vanessa was 16, our parents threw her a massive party at a downtown hotel. There was a DJ, a 3-tiered cake, and over 100 guests. My father gave a speech about his shining star. When I turned 16, 6 months later, my mother gave me a card with $50 inside. "Why don't you buy yourself a new textbook, honey?" she said, patting my arm. "You're not a party girl like your sister, and that's okay. You're the smart one. The smart one." That was my label. It didn't mean they respected my intelligence. It meant I was quiet. It meant I was low maintenance. It meant I was the one they didn't have to worry about, so they just didn't. Vanessa was the social one. She was beautiful, charming, and knew how to work a room. She was the one they bragged about. Her life was a series of easy, visible achievements. Prom queen, sorority president, an internship at an art gallery secured by one of my father's friends. I was the one in my bedroom with an old computer I'd bought with saved-up chore money. I wasn't just playing on it, like they told their friends. I was taking it apart and putting it back together. I was learning to code. I was building things. When I was 17, I built a simple program that helped my high school library manage its entire inventory. It was my first real project. I was so proud. I brought my parents to the library to show them. My dad looked at the screen. "That's nice, Emma," he said. "Very neat. Did you hear? Vanessa just got asked to the formal by the quarterback." My mother smiled at the librarian. She's always been so good with hobbies. Hobbies. That's all it ever was to them. I went to college. I got a full scholarship for computer science. My parents drove me to the dorm. My mother cried because she was losing her baby, but I knew she was really just practicing for when Vanessa, the real daughter, left for college the next year. While Vanessa was majoring in art history and going to formals, I was in a basement lab with 3 other people. We were working on an idea, a new way for students to manage their course loads and share notes. It was clunky at first, but it was ours. My sophomore year, we won a state-level tech grant. It was $20,000. It was the most money I had ever seen. I called home, my hands shaking. "Mom, Dad, you won't believe this. We won the grant. $20,000. There was a pause. "Oh, honey, that's wonderful," my mother said. Her voice was distracted. "Listen, can I call you back? Your sister just announced she's studying abroad in Florence for a semester, and we're planning the cutest going-away party for her." I clicked the phone shut. I sat there in the buzzing fluorescent light of the lab, and I just stopped. I stopped expecting them to see me. I stopped trying to make them proud. I realized right then that their pride was a closed loop. It was reserved for Vanessa. I took my half of the grant money and, instead of spending it, I invested it. I put it all into a few tech stocks I'd been watching. It felt like the only thing I could control. I kept working. I built my app. I graduated summa cum laude. I sent them an invitation to the ceremony. I was giving a small speech as one of the top students in my department. They didn't come. "Oh, Emma, you know your father's back is tricky," Mom said over the phone. "And it's just so long to sit for a graduation." We'll be there in spirit. Vanessa is sending you a new scarf. Isn't that sweet? I gave my speech. I accepted my diploma. I walked off the stage and I didn't look for them in the crowd. I learned to expect nothing. It was safer that way. After college, I got a small, cheap apartment. My parents were horrified. But Emma, it's so plain, my mother said, wrinkling her nose at my second-hand furniture. Vanessa, meanwhile, had graduated and moved into a stunning downtown loft. My parents co-signed the lease and furnished the entire thing. She needs to be in a good neighborhood, my father explained. It's important for her career in the art world. Her career was being an assistant at the same gallery, mostly planning parties. But that was a real job. Mine was not. I was working 18-hour days. My college app had gotten some attention. I had a team. We were building something bigger. My parents just knew I worked with computers. They thought I was a secretary or a repair person. It's a shame you didn't get a job at a real company, Emma, my father would say at Sunday dinners. Like Microsoft. Or even Dell, this little startup thing. It's not stable. You should be thinking about a 401k. I tried. One last time. I was 25. We had just secured our first round of major seed funding. It was $3 million. I had never felt so alive. I drove to my parents' house. I had the bottle of champagne in my bag. I walked in. They were in the kitchen with Vanessa. She was crying. He just broke up with me, she wailed. After I bought tickets to Cabo. My mother was rubbing her back. He's a fool, sweetie. A terrible, terrible fool. My father was on the phone. Yes, I need to cancel a credit card. My daughter's... Well, there's been some fraud. I stood in the doorway. My $3 million victory felt small, stupid. I turned around. I put the champagne back in my car. I drove back to my office. I never tried to tell them about my work again. From that day on, I built a wall. I smiled at family dinners. I nodded. I listened to them praise Vanessa for getting a 2% raise. I listened to them criticize my tiny apartment. I listened to them tell me I should get out more and find a nice man. I just nodded. And I worked. I learned to live a double life. The Emma they saw was the quiet, failed, smart one. The real Emma was someone they had never, ever met. And they never, ever would, until tonight. The Sterling Club was suffocating. The air was thick with the smell of old money and expensive perfume. My mother had picked it, of course. It was the only place she and my father celebrated anything important. It was a stage. And tonight, Vanessa was the star. And the pilot? Oh my God, you guys. He was so rude, Vanessa was saying, swirling her deep red wine. He told me my carry-on was technically too big. I mean, me? Can you imagine? My mother gasped, playing her part. No, Vanessa, how awful for you. What did you do? I just looked at him and said, Do you know who my fiancé is? Vanessa said with a laugh. That shut him up. Robert's firm basically owns that airline. My father chuckled. That's my girl. Don't let anyone push you around. I watched them. My father glowing with pride, his tie perfectly straight. My mother leaning in, her eyes sparkling with second-hand glamour. They hung on Vanessa's every word. The appetizers arrived. Tiny, complicated things on huge white plates. Anyway, Vanessa continued, the Maldives were just divine. We had an overwater bungalow. Robert and I have decided we're never doing a regular beach vacation again. It's just so common. Oh, the pictures you sent were beautiful, sweetie, Mom said. That blue dress. You looked like a model. I know, right? Vanessa preened. Now we just have to finalize the wedding plans. 300 guests is a lot to manage. The caterer is being a nightmare about the vegan options. But our wedding planner is a miracle worker. She's the same one who did the governor's daughter's wedding. My father sat back, beaming. Whatever it costs, honey. It's your special day. You only get one. I thought about my own special days. The college graduation they missed. The day I sold my first company, which I celebrated alone with a slice of pizza and a cheap bottle of champagne in my tiny apartment. The day I signed the lease on my first real office space, and my only witness was the notary. Their version of special was about spending money. Mine was about making it. The main courses came. Vanessa had the lobster. My parents had the filet mignon. I had ordered the salmon. Vanessa looked at my plate. Oh, Emma. Still being so sensible. My mother jumped in, her voice full of that fake, bright concern. And Emma, Good, just good. My father cut into his steak. You know, Emma, I was talking to Bill Harrison the other day. His daughter just made junior partner at her law firm. She's only 28. A real go-getter, I nodded. That's great for her. He's just saying, honey, my mom added quickly, that we worry. This computer thing you do, it's so isolating. You're in that little apartment all the time. You're not meeting anyone. You're not building a life. A life. To them, a life was a husband, a big house, and a job you could describe at a cocktail party. I'm a lawyer. I'm a gallery director. I'm a doctor. I could never say, I'm a CEO of a tech firm I built from scratch, and I'm currently managing a portfolio of assets that would make your head spin. They wouldn't understand it. They wouldn't believe it. To them, I was just Emma, the quiet one, the one who was good with hobbies. Vanessa laughed, that high tinkling sound again. Oh, Mom, leave her alone. She's trying. Right, Em? I'm sure one of these days you'll hit it big with one of your apps. She said apps like it was a dirty word, like it was something children played with. Maybe, I said, and I took a bite of my salmon. The rest of the dinner went on just like that. Vanessa detailed her fiancé's latest promotion, his new car, their plans to buy a summer home in the Hamptons. My parents listened. They glowed. They praised. They asked all the right questions. And his bonus this year. Dad, you'd be so proud. A wonderful young man, Vanessa. You chose well. I sat there. I was invisible. I was a ghost at their table. I wasn't their daughter. I was a backdrop. I was the before picture, and Vanessa was the after. I watched them. I watched the way my father's eyes crinkled when he smiled at Vanessa. I watched the way my mother touched Vanessa's hair, her hand gentle and full of love. They had never looked at me like that. Not once, not ever. I wasn't angry. I was cold. I was a surgeon looking at a patient. The patient was my family, and I was finally seeing, with perfect 20/20 clarity, that the patient was dead. This relationship, it was over. It had been over for years. I just needed to sign the death certificate. The waiter came. Would you be having dessert this evening? Oh, yes, my father said, sitting up straight. Bring us the chocolate lava cakes. And a bottle of your best champagne. We have an announcement. He looked at me. His eyes weren't warm. They were serious. They were the eyes of a businessman about to close a deal. Vanessa looked at me, too. Her eyes were different. They were sharp, and she was smirking. I knew in that instant, this wasn't an anniversary announcement. This was an execution. And I was the one on the block. I just sat there, and I waited. The waiter set down the desserts. 4 molten chocolate cakes, bleeding onto white porcelain plates. He poured the champagne. My father raised his glass. To 30 years, he said, looking at my mother. And to a wonderful family. My mother smiled. Vanessa raised her glass. To Mom and Dad, I raised mine. Congratulations, we all drank. The champagne was expensive and it tasted like ash in my mouth. My father set his glass down. The clink was very loud in the quiet restaurant. He cleared his throat. Emma, he said. He didn't look at me. He looked at the tablecloth. Your mother and I, we've been doing some financial planning. For the future, I waited. I kept my hands folded in my lap. When you both turned 18, he continued, we gave you your trust funds. Your grandmother was very generous, $1.2 million each. It was a gift, a head start, a foundation to build a responsible life upon. He finally looked at me. His face was a mask of tough love. It was the face he used when he was about to be cruel. For my own good, we've been watching you. Emma, we've been concerned, deeply concerned. My mother chimed in, her voice soft and full of false pity. Honey, we see you in that tiny, tiny apartment. You wear the same simple clothes. You're not living. We know you try hard with your little projects, but that money, it's just gone, isn't it? I didn't say anything. I let her words hang in the air. It's gone, isn't it? My father leaned forward. You blew it, Emma. You blew $1 million head start. We don't know how. We don't know what you spent it on, but it's gone. You had a golden opportunity and you threw it away on nothing. Vanessa took a delicate bite of her cake. She was looking at me, her eyes wide with fake sympathy. Oh, Emma, she whispered. All of it? We see Vanessa, my father said, his voice warming as he turned to her. We see the beautiful home she's built with Robert. We see her smart investments, her career, Her maturity. Vanessa has been so responsible, my mother added, reaching out to pat my sister's hand. She understands the value of money. She's building a legacy, my father nodded. Exactly, a legacy. And that is a parent's number one concern. What we leave behind. And we need to know. We have to know that what we've built will be in responsible hands. The air was very, very still. I could hear the faint sound of a piano from the lounge. So, my father said, his voice dropping, your mother and I have made a decision. We've spoken to our lawyers. We are restructuring our will. The remaining inheritance, the portion that would have been yours. We are transferring it all to Vanessa. I looked at Vanessa. Her face was a perfect mask of shock. Oh, Daddy? Mom? I don't know what to say. Are you sure? But her eyes were dancing. Her smirk was just barely hidden behind her champagne flute. She knew. She had known this was coming. This was her idea. My father nodded, his face firm. We are sure. It's the only responsible thing to do. We need to protect the family's assets. We need to protect you from yourself, Emma. Protect me from myself. I stared at him. I stared at my mother, who was nodding, a sad, "This hurts me more than it hurts you" look on her face. I stared at my sister, who was already in her mind spending my money. This was it. The final betrayal. They hadn't just ignored my successes. They hadn't just dismissed my life. They had now officially declared me a failure. A charity case. A child who couldn't be trusted. They took away the one thing they thought I had left. My future, my inheritance. My mother leaned in. Emma, honey, please say something. They were waiting. They were waiting for the explosion. They wanted the tears. They wanted the screaming. They wanted me to yell, "It's not fair!" They wanted me to break down, to beg, to prove them right. To prove I was the unstable, emotional, failed daughter. I looked at my father. I looked at my mother. I looked at my sister. I picked up my fork. I took a small bite of my lava cake. It was rich and sweet. I swallowed. Then I looked at my father, and I said one word, "Okay." The silence that followed my "okay" was a vacuum. It sucked all the air from the table. My father's face, which had been set in a look of stern resolution, just crumpled. He blinked. What did you say?" I said "okay," I repeated. My voice was perfectly level. I took another bite of cake, okay? My mother's voice was a high-pitched squeak. That's all you have to say? Emma, did you hear your father?" "I heard him," I said. "You're giving my inheritance to Vanessa." "Okay." Vanessa was the one who recovered first. She put her hand on my arm, her nails digging in slightly. Her voice was dripping with fake, sticky concern. It's nothing to be ashamed of," she said, loud enough for the tables nearby to hear. "We all make mistakes. And don't you worry. Robert and I will take such good care of you. If you ever need anything, a new coat or help with your rent, you just have to ask. I'll always be there for my little sister." Little sister. I was 2 years older than her. She was gloating. This was her victory lap. She was painting me as a charity case. A pathetic creature she would now be responsible for. My father's confusion turned to anger. My calm "okay" was an insult. It was not the reaction he had prepared for. He had prepared for tears. He had prepared for a fight. He had a whole speech ready about responsibility and tough love. My quiet acceptance stole his power. "Don't you okay me, young lady," he snapped, his voice low and sharp. "This is not some small thing. This is your future. A future you threw away. You had your chance, Emma. You had the exact same 1.2 million as your sister. Look at her. She has a home, a stable career, a successful man. She built something." He gestured at me, his hand slicing the air. "And what do you have? A one-bedroom apartment you can barely afford. A hobby that clearly pays nothing. No husband, no prospects. You are 29 years old and you have nothing to show for your life. We are disappointed, Emma. We are profoundly and deeply disappointed." There it was. The word, their favorite weapon, disappointed. It used to shatter me. It used to send me running to my room, vowing to try harder, to be better, to finally get them to see me. But tonight, the word just hit me and fell to the floor. It had no power anymore. "I understand," I said. "No, you don't understand," my mother cried. She was actually tearing up. But they weren't tears for me. They were tears of frustration. I was ruining her scene. We are doing this because we love you. We are trying to help you. Why are you being so cold? Why won't you talk to us? We've been talking my whole life, Mom, I said, my voice still quiet. You just haven't been listening. That's not fair. She shot back. It's not, I agreed. Vanessa leaned back, a full smirk on her face now. She had won. She had gotten the money, and she had gotten the satisfaction of my parents confirming once and for all that she was the good daughter and I was the bad one. She raised her champagne flute. Well, she said, I for one am grateful. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Mom. I promise I will be an excellent steward of the family's legacy. My father nodded, looking at her with pure, unfiltered love. We know you will, sweetheart. We know it's in good hands. They all looked at me, expecting a final crack, expecting me to finally lose it. My father, triumphant. My mother, tearfully hurt. My sister, glowing with greed. This was the moment. This was the end of the story they had written for me. I slowly, deliberately, picked up my glass of water. I looked at my father, who was still lecturing me. You just aren't responsible enough for that kind of money, Emma. You've proven that. I looked at my mother, who was dabbing her eyes. We just want you to be safe, honey. I looked at Vanessa, who was staring at me like a cat watching a mouse. I brought the glass to my lips. I took a long, slow sip of water. The ice clinked gently against the glass. The sound was deafening in the heavy silence. I set the glass down. The sound was a period. The end of a sentence. The end of my life as their victim. I straightened my back. I looked all three of them in the eye, one by one. The Emma they knew, the quiet, failed, invisible girl, was gone. She had just walked out of the room, the woman who was left. They had no idea who she was, but they were about to. My father's face was dark red. Responsible? You don't know the first thing about being responsible. You had your chance, Emma. You had your chance and you blew it. My mother was dabbing her eyes with a napkin. We just wanted you to be safe, honey. We just wanted you to have a future. I looked at them. Really looked at them. They had no idea. They had no idea who I was. They had built a story about me. The poor, failed, quiet daughter. And they had lived in that story for so long. They thought it was real. Okay, I said again, my voice very soft. I reached into my simple, plain black purse. It wasn't a designer bag. It was functional, Vanessa scoffed. What are you going to do, Emma? Pay for your dessert? Don't worry, I'll cover it. My father held up a hand. That's enough, Vanessa. This is a sad day. Your sister has made her choices. I didn't pull out my wallet. I pulled out my phone. It was a simple phone, a standard model. The screen was clean. My mother looked at it. Emma, please. Don't call anyone. Don't make a scene. This is a private family matter. It is, I agreed. I tapped the screen. I opened an app. It was a simple, secure banking app. It took a second for my face to scan in the dim light. I turned the phone around and placed it on the white tablecloth, right next to the half-eaten lava cake. I said nothing. I just let them look. My father squinted. What is this, some kind of game? A website? Vanessa leaned in, her eyes sharp. She read the screen. She was the first one to see the number. Her face went from a smug, satisfied smirk to nothing. It was like a mask fell off. The blood drained from her face. She went so pale I thought she might be sick. She put her hand to her mouth. She didn't speak. My mother leaned in next. What is it? She saw the number. She gasped. It was a small, sharp sound like a bird being hit. Emma? What? I don't understand. My father finally leaned over. He saw it. He stared. He took off his reading glasses, wiped them, and put them back on the screen. In plain, simple black and white numbers was my current checking account balance, $67,349,284.33. It's a fake, my father said, his voice flat. He sat back. It's a fake website. Emma, my God, this is pathetic. Have you gotten into some kind of online scam? Did you make this? No, I said. That's not real, Emma, he snapped. There is no way you have $67 million. You're right, Dad, I said. I don't. That's just my checking account. My main investment portfolio is separate. The table was completely, utterly silent. The piano in the lounge seemed to get louder. You said, I blew the trust fund, I said. My voice was calm. I wasn't yelling. I was just stating facts. You said I had my chance. I picked up my phone. You were right about one thing. I did get 1.2 million when I was 18. I remember, because Vanessa spent hers on a new car and a year in Europe. You told her she deserved a break. Vanessa was white as a sheet. I took my $1.2 million, I said, and I invested it. All of it. In a few tech startups I'd been watching. You told me I was playing on my computer. You told me to get out more. My father just stared. Those startups did well. Very well. When I was 22, I took that money, which was now $4.5 million, and I started my first company. It was the app I was building in my dorm room. The one you called my little hobby. My mother's hand was at her throat. Emma, why wouldn't you tell us? I tried, I said. I called you when I got my first round of funding. You were busy planning Vanessa's going away party for her Florence trip. I tried to tell you when I graduated. You didn't come to the ceremony. I kept my eyes on my father. I sold that first company when I was 25. I sold it for $12 million. You were busy co-signing the lease on Vanessa's new loft. You said she needed to be in a good neighborhood. I took that $12 million, I went on, and I started a second company, a data security firm. It was harder. I worked 18-hour days. I lived in my tiny apartment, as you called it. I lived there because I was putting every single dollar back into my business. I lived on ramen noodles. I didn't take a salary for 2 years. You would come over for dinner. You would look at my old furniture. You would tell me I wasn't building a life. You told me I needed to find a man. You told me Bill Harrison's daughter was a go-getter because she made junior partner at a law firm. My voice was still quiet, but it was heavy. Last year, I said, I sold that second company, the one I built with ramen noodles. I sold it to a major corporation. The deal was for $44 million. Vanessa made a small, choking sound. The little project I'm working on now? The one Vanessa asked about? It's my third company, Helios Data. It's currently valued at $94 million. I am the founder and the CEO. I let that sit there. My father shook his head. I don't believe you. This is a story, a fantasy. It's not, I said. I tapped my phone again. You're a businessman, Dad. You understand numbers. This is the tax return I filed in April. You can see the name. Emma Collins. You can see the amount. I showed him the screen. The number was very large. I paid $8.2 million in capital gains taxes last year. I own my apartment. I own the building it's in. I own 2 other properties. One in New York and a small vineyard in Napa. I have never touched a single dollar of your money. I don't need your money. I don't need your inheritance. I put the phone down. No one spoke. My father's face was no longer red. It was gray. My mother was looking at me, but her eyes were blank. She was seeing me, but she was also seeing a ghost. She was seeing a person she had never met, Vanessa. Vanessa just looked sick. The silence was total. It was a heavy, cold lead blanket. It was the sound of their entire world, their entire understanding of their family, breaking into a million tiny pieces. The favorite daughter, the failed daughter. It was all a lie. My father opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He closed it. He looked at my mother. He looked at Vanessa, and then very slowly, he looked at me. He wasn't looking at Emma. He was looking at a number. He was looking at $67 million. He was looking at a stranger. My father found his voice first. It was a rasp. Bill Harrison, our financial guy, he never mentioned this. If this was real, he would have known. He manages all the family's assets. He would have said something. He was grasping. He was looking for a life raft. He was looking for any proof that his world was not completely upside down. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Bill Harrison, I said, was a terrible financial manager. He had you in high-risk municipal bonds that were tanking. He was charging you a 2% fee for a portfolio that had lost 6% year over year. My father's eyes widened. How could you possibly know that? Because, I said, I'm the one who fixed it. You didn't fire Bill Harrison, Dad. He retired. He sold his small, failing firm to a larger, anonymous buyer. That was 3 years ago. I leaned forward. This was the part I had saved. This was the part they would not understand. But they would feel it. Dad, who manages your money right now? What's the name on the statements you get every quarter? He frowned. It's HD Capital, a very good firm, very professional. Our retirement. It's never been healthier. Bill told us he was rolling his clients over to them. My mother, who was still pale, whispered, HD Capital. I watched her face. I watched the gears turn. I watched her look at my face, then at the table, then back at my face. HD, I said. Helios Data, as in my company. HD Capital Partners is the wealth management arm of my corporation. The one I set up after I sold my second company. My mother's hand flew to her chest. No. Oh, Emma, no. Yes, I said. For 3 years, I have been managing your entire investment portfolio. Your retirement. Your stocks. Your liquid assets. Everything. My father just deflated. He sank back into the plush leather of the booth. He looked old. He looked small. I remember, I said, my voice still quiet. I was at Sunday dinner. 3 years ago. You were yelling about the market. You were terrified. You told Mom you thought you'd have to sell the house. You said you were being killed. I went home that night, I continued, and I looked up your portfolio manager. I saw the mess, so I bought his firm. Anonymously. I took on his clients. I rolled your assets into my system. I restructured everything. I got you out of those terrible bonds. I put you into tech index funds. I diversified. I looked at him. You haven't complained about money since, have you? You know why? Because your retirement fund, your money, has grown by 47% since I took it over. Vanessa made a sound. A tiny high-pitched whimper. I did that, I said. I let my words fall onto the table one by one. I, the irresponsible daughter, the failure, the one who blew her trust fund. I have been saving your financial life in my spare time for 36 months. I did it quietly. I did it, I said, my voice finally having a small tremor, while you were dismissing me. I did it while you were praising Vanessa for her financial maturity. By the way, Vanessa, that art gallery you work for, its investment account, also managed by my firm. I've been personally approving your last 2 cost of living raises, which I saw were well above the company's average. Vanessa looked like I had just slapped her. I protected you, I whispered. I hadn't meant to say it, but the word came out. I protected your house. I protected your retirement. I protected your legacy. I did it all. While you sat at this table tonight and you shamed me. You shamed me for my simple dress. You shamed me for my tiny apartment. You shamed me for not being her. I pointed at Vanessa, and that's when they broke. My mother started to cry. Not the frustrated, angry tears from before. These were different. They were deep, gasping, ugly sobs. Oh my God, she cried into her napkin. Oh my God, Emma, what have we done? Vanessa was trembling. Her whole body was shaking. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at my phone, which was still on the table, glowing with my tax return. She was looking at it like it was a bomb. My father was speechless. He was a man built on pride, on success, on being the provider. And I had just told him that his entire identity was a lie. He had been saved. He had been rescued by the one person he had never, ever respected. He just stared at the tablecloth. His face was gray. His hands were shaking. He was gone, the daughter they never saw, the daughter they never even met. She was sitting right in front of them, and she had just taken everything. The silence of the reveal was broken by my mother's sobbing. It was loud and it was raw. People at other tables were starting to look. Please, stop, my father whispered, his voice thick. He wasn't talking to me. He was talking to my mother. Caroline, stop, you're making a scene. A scene? She shrieked, her voice muffled by the napkin. Richard, did you hear her? Did you hear what she said? Oh, Emma, she couldn't finish. She just broke down again. But Vanessa was a survivor. I watched her shaking hands. I watched her pale face. I watched the terror in her eyes. And I watched her calculate she knew she had lost. The inheritance, the favorite daughter title. It was all gone. It had turned to dust. She was no longer the star. She was nothing. So she pivoted. With a loud sob that was almost as dramatic as my mother's, Vanessa grabbed the champagne flute. Her hand was shaking so badly that champagne slopped over the side. Oh my God, she cried. Emma, I I had no idea. She looked at my father. Daddy, this is wrong. This is all wrong. The inheritance. I can't. I won't take it. She pushed the champagne flute away so hard it almost tipped over. This is a mistake, she said, her voice rising. Emma should have it. She should have all of it. She's, my God, Em, you're amazing. She turned to me, her eyes wide and wet with new, fresh tears. They were very convincing tears. Em, I'm so sorry. I was joking tonight. All that stuff about your projects. I was just teasing. You know I love you. You've always been the smart one. I always said that, didn't I, Mom? I always said Emma's the smart one. She reached for my hand. We can fix this. You're a genius. I always knew it. We can go shopping tomorrow. I can help you with, she trailed off. What could she help me with? It was pathetic. It was the most pathetic, transparent, desperate thing I had ever seen. An hour ago, I was her little project. I was the sensible, plain, failed sister. A charity case, now? Now that I had 67 million, I was amazing. I was a genius. I watched her. I felt nothing, no pity, no anger, just coldness. I looked at her hand, reaching for mine. I didn't move. Stop it, Vanessa, I said. My voice cut through her fake sobs. She froze. What? I'm just saying, I'm on your side. No, you're not, I said. You're on the side of the money. I'm the same person I was an hour ago, Vanessa. I'm the same person I was yesterday. The same person you've been mocking my entire life. I looked her right in the eye. The only thing that changed is your perception of me. The only thing that changed is you found out I'm rich. Her face fell. She knew I saw her. She knew I saw all of her. Emma. My mother's voice was a desperate whisper. She had her sobs under control. She slid across the booth, pushing my father out of the way, and grabbed my arm. Her grip was tight. Emma, please. Honey, we made a mistake. A terrible, awful mistake. We didn't know. That's the point, Mom, I said, looking at her. You didn't know. You never asked. You never looked. It was easier for you. It was easier to have one perfect daughter and one failed one. It made your world simple. You never once tried to know who I was. That's not true, she cried. We love you. We've always loved you. We just worried. We worried you were alone. We worried you weren't happy. I was happy, I said. I was building something. I was working. You just didn't like what it looked like. It didn't look like Vanessa's life. So it had to be wrong. Emma, my father's voice. It was gravel. It was broken. Emma, what do you want? Do you want an apology? We're sorry. God, we are so sorry. We are so proud of you. There it was. The word. The one word I had spent my entire childhood, my entire life trying to hear. Proud. I waited for the feeling. The warmth. The relief. Nothing. The word was empty. It was a blank. It was a word he was using to negotiate. It was a word he was using to try and fix the most terrifying situation of his life. He wasn't proud of me. He was terrified of my power. Please, honey, my mother begged. She was clutching my arm. Let's go home. We can talk about this. We can fix this. We're a family. A family. I looked at her hand on my arm. Her perfectly manicured nails. Her diamond anniversary ring. Slowly, gently, I unhooked her fingers from my arm. I pulled my hand back. I placed it in my lap. We can't fix this, Mom. What? Why, we can. We can do anything. You don't see what's broken, I said. We see. We see, she insisted. No, I said. I looked at her. I looked at my father. I looked at my sister. We've been talking my whole life. You just haven't listened. I picked up my simple black purse. The conversation was over. Walking away from their table, I slid out of the booth. The movement was electric. It was a bomb going off. Emma, wait! My mother lunged, grabbing for my arm again. Where are you going? You can't just leave. Emma, sit down. My father tried to use his dad voice. It came out as a weak, panicked croak. We are not finished. This is your family. Please. Vanessa's voice was high and shrill. Don't go. We're sorry. I'm sorry. I really am. Oh my God, please don't be mad. Please. I stood by the table. I looked down at them. The three of them. My family. They looked frantic. They looked like drowning people. They were grabbing at me, their faces twisted in panic. The half-eaten chocolate cakes. The spilled champagne. The linen napkins, crumpled and wet with tears. It looked like a car crash. I looked at my father's gray face. I looked at my mother's streaming makeup. I looked at Vanessa's wide, terrified eyes. I had waited my whole life for them to see me. And now, they finally did. But they weren't seeing Emma, the daughter. They were seeing Emma, the CEO. They were seeing Emma, the one who controls our money. They were seeing a stranger who held all the cards. I wasn't angry. That was the strangest part. I had played this scene in my head 1,000 times over the years. In my head, I was always screaming. I was always crying. I was always throwing their insults back in their faces. But I wasn't angry. I was light, the crushing, suffocating weight of their disappointment. It was gone. I had been carrying it on my back for 29 years. And I had just set it down. I was just done. I'm done, I said. Done? What does that mean? My mother cried. I didn't answer. I just turned around. I started to walk. My footsteps were loud on the polished floor. I didn't run. I walked. I kept my back straight. I could feel their eyes on my back. I could feel the eyes of the entire restaurant on my back. I walked past the tables of other families, the ones who were laughing. I walked past the piano player. I walked toward the heavy wooden doors. The waiter rushed to open one for me. Is everything all right, miss? Everything is fine, I said. Thank you. And I stepped out. The cold November air hit my face. It felt clean. It felt so clean. I took a deep, deep breath. It was the first real breath I'd taken all night. I walked to my car. It wasn't a flashy sports car. It was a dark gray Audi. Fast, safe, and understated. No one ever looked at it twice. It was my car. I got in. I sat in the dark, silent car for a full minute. Then my phone buzzed in my purse. I pulled it out. The screen lit up. A text from Mom. Emma, please come back. We are begging you. Your father is sick. I'm serious. He's having chest pains. Come back now. A manipulation. A lie? Another text. My father. That was an unacceptable display, Emma. You humiliated your mother and me. Call me now. We are going to discuss this. A flash of the old anger. The old control. Another text. Vanessa. OMG. Emma, I am seriously sorry. I had no idea. You are a boss. Seriously, a fucking boss. Let's go shopping tomorrow. My treat or yours? Lol, I mean it. I love you. Don't be mad at me. I'll do anything. Anything. Greed. Bargaining. Then another from my father. Seconds after his angry one. Please, Emma, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm proud of you. I'm so proud. Please, just come back. We can talk. I'll listen. I promise I'll listen. The panic. The retraction. The desperation. I watched the texts roll in. A cascade of fear, lies, manipulation, and broken pride. My finger hovered over the screen. I could have replied. I could have written anything. Instead, I pressed the small button on the side of the phone. The one with the little moon icon. Do not disturb. The screen went dark. The buzzing stopped. Silence. I started the car. I pulled out of the Sterling Club parking lot. I didn't drive to one of my other properties. I didn't drive to the big empty house I owned on the coast. I didn't drive to my office tower downtown. I drove home. I drove home to my tiny apartment. The one bedroom they pitied me for. The one my mother called plain. It wasn't plain. It was mine. I loved that apartment. It was the first thing I ever bought. Not with the trust fund. With the money from my first company. The hobby I built in my dorm. This apartment was where I built my second company. This was where I ate cold pizza on the floor at 3 a.m. and cried because my code wouldn't compile. This was where I signed the deal that made me a millionaire, all by myself, on a Tuesday afternoon. This was the only real home I had ever known. I parked my car. I went inside, and I locked the door. My apartment was quiet. There was no yelling. There was no crying. There was no bragging. There was no heavy, suffocating judgment. It was just quiet. My home wasn't tiny or plain. It was focused. It was minimalist. Most of the furniture was simple, clean lines. One whole wall was just a massive floor-to-ceiling window looking out over the city lights. They thought my life was small. They didn't understand. My life was intentional. I didn't need a 6-bedroom mansion. I didn't need a closet full of designer bags. That was their language. That was Vanessa's language. It was the language of people who had to show everyone all the time how much they were worth. I didn't need to show anyone. I just was. I took off the simple black dress. I threw it on the chair. I pulled on an old soft gray sweater. My favorite one. It had a small hole in the sleeve. I went to my kitchen. I opened the fridge. I pulled out a bottle of wine. It wasn't 500 champagne. It was a $30 bottle of red that I liked. I poured a glass. I walked over to the big window. I looked down at the city. The lights. The cars moving like tiny bright insects. I stood there, and I thought about the scene at the restaurant. I thought about their faces. The shock. The panic. The terror. They hadn't been apologizing to me. Not really. They were apologizing to the $67 million. They were apologizing to the woman who, they suddenly realized, controlled their retirement. They were apologizing to the power. If I had lost all my money tomorrow, would my father still be proud? No. If I was broke, would my mother still be begging me to come home? No. If I was poor, would Vanessa be calling me a boss? No, and that was sad. It was a deep, cold sadness. But it was okay. It was okay. Because I didn't need them anymore. I had spent my entire life trying to get their approval, their validation, their love. I had been waiting for them to finally turn around and see me. Tonight, I had finally, truly understood. They never would. Not the real me. They were only capable of seeing the numbers. They saw the failure, or they saw the success. They never saw the person, and I didn't need their validation. I had my own. My worth wasn't in my bank account. The money was just a result. It was a tool. It wasn't me. My worth was in the work. It was in the code I wrote in my dorm. It was in the team I had built. It was in the fact that I could stand here, alone on a Thursday night in my old sweater, and feel whole. I had built my own legacy. My other phone, my work phone, started to ring from the kitchen counter. It had a different, sharper ringtone. I walked over. I looked at the screen. It was Ben, my COO, I answered. Hey, Ben, what's up? It's late. His voice was electric. He was talking so fast I could barely understand him. Emma, the deal. It just closed. The final papers were signed 20 minutes ago. The expansion, it's done. We're in. The board is ecstatic. We just grew our market share by 30%. We did it. A smile spread across my face. A real one. A warm one. A feeling of pure, clean joy washed over me. This was real. That's amazing, Ben, I said, and I laughed. A real laugh. That's really, really great news. Tell the team. Tell them I'm proud of them. I'll see everyone on Monday. I hung up the phone. I walked back to the window. My company was growing. My life was solid. My peace was my own. I looked down at my silent personal phone. The screen was dark. I knew behind that dark screen the messages were still piling up. The panic. The apologies. The begging. They were still back at that table. Trapped. Trapped in their lies, their fear, their money. I was here. I was free. I raised my glass to the city. The wine tasted better than their champagne. It tasted like quiet. It tasted like work. It tasted like my success. My quiet, quiet success.